So, welcome to our Transportation Roundtable discussion. Thank you for being with us today. And over the next couple of minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about transportation, some of the challenges that we've had in the past, but really more importantly, where we're going and some of the solutions that we would like to talk about to move transportation forward. So we value your opinions and this discussion process that we're going through. We're having transportation roundtables and discussions on a myriad of fronts, and we want to make sure that we get a 360 degree view of everyone who has a stakeholder in the transportation process. So as we move forward, there's a whole bunch of items that we're going to discuss in how to move transportation forward. Just know that there's not just one solution that we're looking at. We're looking at multiple solutions to solve some of the transportation issues that we've been faced over the past year and the past previous years. Many of those are systemic, and one of those being the bus driver situation across the U.S. We have a bus driver shortage that isn't going to be solved anytime soon. So as we look forward to solutions, we really want to take into consideration that we know this is a systemic issue. We're not going to have more bus drivers tomorrow, next week, next month, and probably not next year. And so how do we solve these problems knowing what we're dealing with? And then finally, let's imagine transportation in a different light. We've always looked at transportation of being picked up outside your house, maybe a couple houses down, and traveling directly to your school. And we have school of choice, so it could be a school anywhere in the city of Cincinnati. Let's reimagine that. Let's look at how we do transportation differently, because we know right now it's not working. So as we talk about transportation, I want to kind of level set and talk about, what's required of CPS. CPS is required to transport all students who live 2 miles from their home to the school that they go to. If we look at those items that are requirements versus what we do, you'll notice very quickly that we go well above and beyond what those legal requirements are. So although I just said that we're required to transport students who are 2 miles from their school, we actually in CPS, through board action, have moved that to 1 mile. So we transport all students outside that 1 mile barrier to the school. Also, we transport all of our non-public and charter students inside the city of Cincinnati too. And not everyone knows that we really handle 2 separate transportation processes by transporting our CPS students to CPS schools, and also our non-public and charter students to those schools as well. So that's something that not everyone knows. And so if you live in the city of Cincinnati, we transport students to every one of those schools. This past year, we actually added 7th and 8th graders onto Yellow Bus. And that created a challenge. As I said before, we didn't have the bus drivers to be able to do that previously. And then adding those more students on Yellow Bus actually created a little bit more of an issue trying to stretch those resources. Within transporting students, we can transport students in a myriad of ways. Obviously, we have students who walk to school. We have students who take Yellow Bus. We have students who maybe take Metro to school. But we also have van service. And so the state isn't telling us how we get students to school. We have a myriad of different ways to do that. And moving forward, I think we maximize all those different ways so that we can get students to school safely and on time. We also know that Cincinnati is a district of choice. And so we also know that we transport students from the far northern areas of the city to the farthest southern or southeastern or southwestern parts of the city where our schools are. And that is a little bit challenging for us, to be honest with you. And because we don't have those resources of the buses and those drivers, it does create longer times on bus. It does create situations in which students may feel as if they're on the bus longer than they should be. So we always have an increasing need for transportation as we are moving forward, and that can be seen in a couple of different ways. For example, at the end of last year, we were transporting roughly 13,000 students on yellow bus to our schools across the district. Fast forward to the beginning of this school year, the 22-23 school year, that number raised to about 18,000 students. So as the school year starts, we're required to put together a transportation plan for every student, regardless of whether or not we knew they were riding. We have to make sure that we have enough buses and seats for all 18,000 students who we're transporting. Think about this, that would take an extra 118 buses this year compared to last year. That's a lot of buses. And those are buses that we didn't have before. So that created the challenge that a lot of families are feeling, knowing that we're transporting more students and we have less resources to do that. Obviously, that's not something we wanted to do, not something that we had planned to do, but something that happened because of some of the ways that the pandemic has affected bus drivers. Currently, we're about 15,000 students who are transporting, so that burden has eased a little bit, but just know that on any given day, we are short somewhere around 20 and upwards of 40 buses or bus drivers every single day that we need to just get to a level set for the district. I get a lot of questions from parents on why the stop times change throughout the school year, and why am I getting robocalls that my son or daughter's bus time either changed in the morning or in the afternoon, or quite possibly both. When we add students onto a bus, and that could be students opting into a school, or it could be families moving into the district, for every student that we add to that bus, that changes the bus time by about a minute. And if we're adding 10 students onto that bus, that could change that pickup or drop-off time by 10 minutes. And so as we go through the years, as I said, or through the year, as I said before, as we're adding students and taking them off of routes, we notice that every week there might be changes, some very little and some, quite extensive, that we're trying to optimize every single week, trying to get students to their school of choice as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And so that's why the times change throughout the school year. So what have we learned going into the school year that maybe we didn't know in the past? Well, we do know that the bus driver shortage due to the pandemic has not gotten any better. And so we know that's going to continue not only this year, but moving forward. We also know that the pandemic's not over, and the resources that were in place prior to the pandemic, those resources aren't always there. We also know that the efficiencies of adding 7th and 8th graders to Yellow Bus, while it was great for families, stretched our resources to the brink. And that's why we're having some of our issues right now. Some of the other things that we really need to focus on is communication. We made some changes at the end of last year coming into this school year, and we didn't let families know that those changes were happening. Some of those are bus stop changes, some of those were bus time changes, and we just need to do a better job of having those conversations with families. And I say conversations, and I'm going to use the word engagement as well. Sending out robocalls and sending out information, that's just one form, but communication is really having that dialogue back and forth and getting that feedback from families such as yourself in regards to transportation, what we're doing right, what you can see that we can be doing better. So we really want to engage on talking about transportation, really moving forward, and also throughout the entire year. So as we end up this part of the presentation, I want to thank you for being with us. I want to thank you for being engaged. I also want to thank you for filling out our survey, which we'll link to in a minute. And that will give us a lot of great feedback as we go into next year and start making changes and start making improvements to transportation, we want to hear from you. So thank you very much.